Welcome to the Everywhere Book Festival. I am here in Brewster, New York, although I spend most of my time in Brooklyn, New York. But because we are self-quarantining, I have come up to Southern Putnam County and have been here for a month, and that's why I look like this. And but I'm glad to be a part of this book festival. I'm glad to be reading from my novel, Red at the Bone, which is a novel targeted at adults. So many of you know me from my writing for young people, from writing picture books and middle grade and young adult novels. And once in a while, I cross the river into adult narratives, just because I like to mix things up. I never wanted to be a writer to just write one type of thing. I always wanted to write, and I wanted to write broadly, and I wanted to write about all the stuff I cared about, and I wanted to write it so that lots of people will read it. And Red at the Bone is a novel told from many perspectives about a family coming together across lines of economic class, two families coming together across lines of economic class, and what it means to be a Black person who survives. And I think about survival a lot, especially now. I think about the way all of us are here because of our ancestors, and without them, we wouldn't have survived, and the struggles that they faced, and how that poured strength into the bloodlines. So I feel very strong sitting here today and reading from Red at the Bone and sharing it with you. I also feel very connected to the past and to the people who made a way out of no way. In the case of Red at the Bone, it's about Black wealth and how that again and again got taken away from Black folks, and how again we survived even though. So I am thinking about what it means to stay sane during a pandemic, what it means to do self-care. I'm reading a lot, I'm sewing a lot, I'm cooking a lot. I'm paying attention to nature and trying to be a part of it. Trying to really accept this cause and understand it, and know that no movement ever comes without struggle. And this is some kind of moment that we're in that is about a movement. And I think what I'm learning is who are the people who will show up and take care of each other, and who are the ones who not so much. Many of you know my partner, my beloved partner, Juliet, is a physician. She's down in New York City working with people who are COVID positive, and we haven't seen her in real life in a month, and that's hard. And I know people are going through harder times than this. So I respect the place that I'm in and how hard it is for me. I don't negate that. And I also know, in terms of keeping perspective and thinking about greater goods and other people, that in some way, shape, or form, we're all in something right now. We can't not be. So I'm glad the Everywhere Book Festival is here. I'm glad to be reading to you from Red at the Bone, a book that took me a long time to write because I had to go back to the early 1900s, back to the 1990s, back to the early 2000s and 1970s. I had to go to California. I had to go to places like UC Santa Cruz, and not physically. I mean, I had to go there in my brain, and I had to go there through research and figure out what the energy was that was coming to this book. And it was fun to do. Whenever I write, I listen to music. I usually have my headphones on. The world gets raced, and I am where I'm supposed to be. And so in writing Red at the Bone, you'll see there's a lot of music running through it, including the song that opens the beginning of the book. I was listening to Sometimes It Snows in April by Prince, which is such a beautiful song, because it snowed here last night, and it was interesting. Red at the Bone by Jacqueline Woodson, me. For the ancestors, a long, long line of you, bending and twisting, bending and twisting. Bro, how you doing? You holding on? Man, you know how it goes. One day chicken, next day bone. Two all black men talking. But that afternoon there was an orchestra playing, music filling the brownstone, black fingers pulling violin bows and strumming cellos, dark lips round horns, a small brown girl with pale pink nails on flute, Malcolm's younger brother, his dark skin glistening, blowing somberly into a harmonica, a broad-shouldered woman on harp. From my place on the stairs, I could see through the windows curious white people stopping in front of the building to listen. And as I descended, the music grew softer, the lyrics in my head becoming a whisper. I knew a girl named Nikki. I guess you could say she was a sex fiend. No vocalist. The little girl didn't know the words. The broad-shouldered woman, having once belted them out loud while showering, was now saved and refused to remember them. Iris wouldn't allow them to be sung, and Malcolm's baby brother's sweet 7-year-old mouth was full. Still, they moved through my head as though Prince himself were beside me. I met her in a hotel lobby masturbating with a magazine. And in the room, there was the pink and the green of my grandmother's sorority, the black and gold of my grandfather's alpha brothers, gray-haired and straight-backed, flashing gold-capped teeth and baritone "Ay-fi-ay" as I made my entrance. High-pitched calls of "Skiri" answering back to them. Another dream for me, and they're calling out to each other. Of course you're going to pledge one day, my grandmother said to me over and over again. When I was a child, she surprised me once with a gift-wrapped hoodie, pale pink with "My grandmother is an AKA" in bright green letters. That's just legacy, Melody, she said. I pledged, your grandfather pledged. Iris didn't. A pause, then quietly, her lips at my ear. That's because your mama isn't legacy. This, I whispered back to her, quoting her sorority's mantra, is a serious matter. My grandmother laughed and laughed. Look back on me on that last day of May, finally 16, and the moment like a hand holding me out to the world, rain giving way to a spectacular sun, its rays speckling through stained glass, dancing off the hardwood floors, the orchestra's music lifting through the open windows and out over the block as though it had always belonged to the Brooklyn air. Look at me, hair flat ironed and curling over my shoulders, red lipstick, charcoaled eyes. The dress, Iris's dress, unworn in her closet until that moment. Already when it was time for her ceremony, I was on my way. Already at nearly 16, her belly told a story a celebration never could. My grandfather's oversized dress shirts backdropping the baby fat still pouting her cheeks, the fine lanugo hair still clinging to the nape of her neck. Still, that afternoon, the years that separated us could have been 50. Iris standing at the bottom of the stairs watching me looking away from her. Where was I looking? At my father? My grandparents? At anything? At anyone but her. Earlier that day, she had come into my room as I pulled stockings over my thighs, attempted to click them to an ivory gartered corset. These too had once belonged to her, unworn, still boxed and wrapped with tissue paper. The fragile stocking struggling against being locked into the garter. This I had learned from my grandmother, and she from her mother, and on back, mine the only ceremony skipping a generation of mothers showing daughters. This, the corset wearing, the garters, the silk stockings, was as old as the house my father and I shared with my grandparents. This ritual of marking class and time and transition stumbled back into the days of cotillion, then morphed and morphed again until it was this, some forgotten ancestor's gartered corset and a pair of new silk stockings, delicate as dust. I guess you win this round, she said. Prince it is. I looked up at her. The evening before, she twisted her hair into tight pin curls, and standing there before me, she began to pull them loose, her thick reddish hair springing into coils down over her ears. The baby fat long gone from her cheeks, replaced by high, stunning bones. I pressed my hand against my own face, felt the same structure beneath my skin. I didn't know it was a competition, Iris. Once, a long time ago, she was mommy, and I held her neck, her arms, her belly tight with dimpled baby hands. I remember that, how I reached and reached and reached for her. Mommy, mommy, mommy. The dress, white and unworn, lay spread out over the bed beside me. Behind it, a framed poster of Rage Against the Machine's 1997 concert. My father and I went because Wu-Tang was opening. I was 12 then, and the two of us yelled and rapped and cheered so hard, we both stayed home the next day, drinking lemon honey tea to nurse our sore throats. The poster was professionally framed, the red letters against the gray mat, the oversized black frame picking up the muted colors of the black and white photograph. Beside it, another poster. If someone said choose between your mother and dad, I wouldn't need to blink, wouldn't stutter. I'd run like a little kid and jump into my daddy's arms. Feels like it's always a competition these days. Somewhere along the way, I became your enemy. She pressed her hand to her throat and held it there, her fingers gently moving across her collarbone as though she were checking it to see if it remained intact. A gold bracelet slid down away from her wrist, tiny diamonds catching the light. I swallowed, at once envying and adoring all the ways in which the word lovely could refer to my mother. So strange still how different we were. I had given up trying to negotiate the stockings into the ridiculous garters and was sitting there staring at her, elbows on my thighs, hands hanging down. I don't get it. This is my ceremony, and you're trying to be stuck about music? You blew yours, remember? No, the baby in my belly blew mine, remember? Don't even, Iris. Then for a moment, like so many times before, I lost the words, watched them drop. No, dissipate from the air between us. Dissipate. The word has shown up on my SAT prep test again and again until it landed in this room with us. Between my mother and me. Don't even. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't say do what you and my dad were doing. You could have waited. Iris raised an eyebrow at me. I know you're not trying to have some kind of abstinence conversation with me. You could have. There wasn't some rush to do what you guys did. You mean have sex? Can you really not say it? Sex, Melody. It's just a 3-letter word. I can say it, I just don't need to right now. And if we had waited, as you say, where would you be? You regret the of me. Don't curse. I don't regret you. I couldn't imagine this world without you in it. Then what is it? She came over to the bed, sat down on the other side of the dress, and ran her hand longingly over it. There were crocheted white flowers at the wrist. The attached train had alternating silk and satin panels. The street seamstress had already been working on it for months before my grandparents found out Iris was pregnant. By the time she started showing, the dress was almost done and paid for. I don't know. She said more to the dress than to me. It's Prince. It's my parents. It's your father. It's me. It's you already 16 now. Where did all those years go? It's crazy. There was a catch in her voice I didn't want to hear. Didn't want to deal with. Not now. Not on my day. It's just Prince. It's not like I'm asking to walk into NWA a little bout. Stop cursing, Melody. You're better than that. And NWA, little whatever. I don't even know what you're saying. She didn't look at me, just continued to run her hand.
Jackie?
Yes?
Jackson wants to know your Gmail password.
I'm doing a video. I can't do it now.
Oh, okay, I'll tell him that.
I think I'm going to stop here. Mainly because I am not going to shout my password across the universe. Also, my son needs me, and you can hear me reading this on audio, and this is the universe saying, Jackie, go be mother now. So I'm gonna go back to being mother, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the book festival. Keep reading, keep writing, keep loving, keep holding people close, even people you don't know. Don't be racist. Go out and change the world. Take care.